Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here and present the results of an important work by the MetaNet partners in assessing current situation and key challenges for European languages in this digital age. And I'd like to give credits to all the MetaNet partners and participants, and especially the FKI team who did an excellent work and contributed to this presentation. I will briefly explain the motivation behind this work, our approach in this, and we'll share some very preliminary but interesting results, and we'll draw up some first conclusions out of this. So, why we need we have to do this work, and do we really need just another survey? There are a lot of papers and books about European languages, but if you look at the language technology field and the purpose and activities of the MetaNet, which is targeted at improving situation in language technology field for all European language, both for monolingual and multilingual technologies. First, we should understand what is the current situation with European languages, not just a few, but all of them. Actually, there has never been such study covering all European languages using the same approach and same methodology in language technology field. And the situation with every language is different, because languages are different, language communities are different, and challenges, there are common challenges, but are unique challenges faced by every language. So we wanted to understand this rich language landscape. And so the survey is an overview of the state of each language in the digital society, and it's not only an overview but also estimation of experts about the current situation and status and availability of different language technologies and resources that are soon needed to implement in real applications and use cases. And the target audience actually is not only people in our language technology community, but mostly politicians, decision makers, journalists, and broader society in general. And it's quite important to reach this audience. We understand very well how important our language technology is, but it's not so clear for many politicians. And it's especially important in this period when priorities for research and innovation activities in Europe are being prepared for the future European activities. And so this work was important activity with participation of all the MetaNet partners. And we are happy to be able to, in a relatively short time, in just a few months, to be able to prepare those first preliminary versions of reports that you have in your conference materials. And in overall, we have these white papers on 29 languages, covering all official EU languages, plus languages of European Economic Area like Icelandic and Norwegian, major regional languages like Basque, Catalan, and Galician, and languages of countries that would like to join European Union in the future, like Serbian. And all these white papers, of course, are different in content, but similar in structure. They share the same sections with an executive summary, an introductory part which emphasizes the importance of language technologies and describes chances and challenges within European context. And this is a shared part for all language white papers. And the second and the third part of white papers address the specific situation of a particular language and describe the language technology support for this language and available tools and resources. Important aspect of this report is not just to describe the situation, but also to show the chances of application of these technologies in different areas of everyday use, how these technologies can actually help European citizens, industries, and societies. And particularly challenging task was to assess language technology support for every language, how to do that. There could be a different approach to address this task, but we should take into account what the primary purpose of these white papers is to address wider audience, non-specialists in the area, and so we should come out with basic conclusions and messages what could be easily understandable for this audience, and not so much with a lot of details. So counting all existing tools and resources would not provide such a message. From other side, coming with a very strict set of criteria and attempting to cover all the languages by the same group of people would be too complicated and time-consuming task. So we took a pragmatic approach, and so for every language, the group of experts did estimations, evaluations in one simple to fill table according to putting scores, ranking according to several criteria like quality, availability, coverage, maturity, sustainability, and adaptability of language tools and resources. And these tools and resources were grouped in basic categories like parsing tools, information retrieval tools, machine translation tools, speech recognition and speech synthesis, and also language resources like corpora, language models, thesauri. This helped us to get, in relatively short time, a good first look at the language situation for always 29 languages. Also, this is not very detailed study with a certain level of subjectivity involved. Which already is a valuable information what helps us to meaningful interpretation of this information, especially for if you look on particular language, the same criteria were used for these experts, but still calibration should be done across all the languages. Such calibration was done in smaller groups for a group of languages, and this work should be continued for calibrating data for all the languages included in this survey. And this table that you see on the slide, it's unreadable, but actually it shows how much data we do have if we summarize just the scores for two central criteria like quality and coverage. And using that data, we can easily come with first preliminary results. And also, this methodology is not very comprehensive. It helps us to draw out the first conclusions. you can see in this small table overall ranking using this quality and coverage criteria for tools and resources, and the scale that was used is from 0 to 6. 0 means that particular resource or tool is non-existent for particular language, and 6 that it's perfect. It couldn't be better. And you can see that the highest score is for basic tools like tokenization, morphology tools. Also, the relatively high score was for speech synthesis, parsing tools, machine translation, speech recognition received the average score, and advanced tools and technologies like semantic analysis of text and language generation tools or advanced discourse processing is non-existent for many languages or in early stage of development. So we already can conclude for this survey where to put our efforts and where these concerted actions should be focused. Some other preliminary results that we already concluded from this first version of reports is that if we take a threshold of score 4, assuming that if this technology or resource received score 4, it's reasonably good for practical usability in different practical applications, we can see that 13 from almost 30 languages in survey lack sufficient support in speech synthesis. Even more, 18 languages lack good enough support for parsing. Parsing tools for many languages, but the quality is not sufficient for many applications. And for machine translation, the situation is even worse. For 26 out of almost 13 languages covered, this machine translation support is not sufficient in the view of experts involved and for many practical applications. So that means that for the most of these languages, a lot of work should be done to fill this gap. It's just not enough to have 50 languages in some widely used translation system, but quality is also very important for multilingual European community. Some other approach how to analyze those results is to cluster results, adjusting with values. We also did some normalization and try to cluster results for specific technologies or resources. And like if you're analyzing machine translation scores, we got 3 clusters with relatively higher ranks for number of languages, and lower ranks for other group of languages. These are very preliminary results, and so the adjustments still be done, and positions of these languages in these clusters can change, but this shows how to apply results of this survey to analyze and identify those aspects and areas where actions should be focused. And we already see that active research and number of regional and national and European activities, for example, for Romanian languages, resulted in relatively higher ranks for Romanian languages, and and in contrast for some other languages that are quite complex or there haven't been such actions, results are not so high. And the same approach or clustering approach for for parsing tools resulted in 4 clusters, and you can see that the first cluster with highest ranking has quite a few languages, and most of them have much lower rankings. And we can also compare not only on European level, but on other geographical or levels, or analyze situation with similar languages or language groups. We did that work for the Nordic and Baltic languages in the Nordic branch of the MetaNet, called it MetaNord. And in this evaluation with colorful bars represent different languages, and you can very easily see where are these gaps. Like for my native Latvian language, there is no speech recognition available. There are no information retrieval tools or semantic analysis tools, and some tools like are not so good. In contrast, for morphology and tokenization tools are relatively of good, received a good score and are actually widely used. And this is very valuable comparison, but was already analyzed at the regional workshop on visibility of language resources in May in Riga, and already draw attention from participating decision makers. Where should they focus? What national activities should be done to fill those gaps and catch up other neighboring countries, neighboring languages? And this is another perspective by language resources and language tools, where we can see that in general, situation with resources in Nordic Baltic region is a bit better than with language tools, and there are few languages that lag significantly behind other languages. So this is very valuable information for understanding situation and making decision. And if you look general on European scale, speech processing and synthesis appears to be more mature than text analysis tools, but also this is not the case for all the languages. And we also see that advanced language technologies are just in very early stage, and a lot of resources and activities should be put to advance them. And we also see that there are few areas where research projects and activities have resulted in very good results, high quality results, but they are not widely usable, not accessible. We had this accessibility criteria, or not standardized. And so we see that there is a need for concerted programs and initiatives to standardize those resources, ensure data interchange interfaces, and the usability of existing resources. And we also see that in many areas, for many languages, this work is carried out, industrial work, putting them into applications, is carried out by smaller companies and SMEs, and they struggle to attack these challenges and reach wider international markets. And so this is a preliminary version of white papers that you have in your bags, and we very much welcome your feedback for final versions, and even more we would like to see following actions and plans, how to address those challenges and how to use chances for truly multilingual Europe. Thank you.